All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you could join us today. My name is Holly Schneider Brown. I am the Senior Director for the Center for Cyber Safety and Education. We are the charitable arm of ISC2. And today you are going to be learning all about the 50 by 50 learning cycle number one. Now, this is a short webinar by design. We know you all have lots of things going on. So what's going to happen is I will give a very quick overview of 50 by 50 just to bring anybody up to speed who doesn't already know about it. Then I'm going to go into the details of learning cycle number one. And then we should have 10 to 15 minutes left for your questions. So if you can put your questions in the chat, I will most likely answer them after I get through my slides. But again, we should have plenty of time to talk about those. Okay, so without any further ado, let's move on. Okay, so the reason we are here today is because women make up less than 25% of the cybersecurity workforce. Now, that is overall. There are some parts of the world where it is much less than that. But the thing is that despite efforts to increase inclusion, the needle is stuck and has been that way since 2019. So we really need a global concerted effort to actually move that needle. That is why we have the new Global 50 by 50 initiative, which just launched. And what we are aiming for with 50 by 50 is 50% women in cybersecurity by the year 2050. Now, we are joined by a number of excellent organizations around the world who have been working towards promoting women and girls in cybersecurity. You can see their logos here. Maybe some of you are actually from some of these organizations, but this just gives you an idea of our coalition. And I want to say, too, this is not it. We absolutely welcome more organizations to join us. All right, so 50 by 50, it certainly involves awareness of the challenge of women's representation in cybersecurity. But what's really critical is action, and that is literally in our brand. So I just wanted to show you the 50 by 50 logo there. If you look at the starburst, you'll see that it is made up of check marks because this is about action and what actions can we take together to actually reach our big goal. All right. So really what we're talking about with 50 by 50 is being stronger together. And we're utilizing a concept called collective impact. Now, if you're not familiar with collective impact, it really is about gathering a coalition and working together to affect systems level change, which is what we need to move the needle for women in cybersecurity. The five conditions of collective impact are a common agenda, shared measurement, mutually reinforcing activities, continuous communications, and a strong backbone. And what we mean by a strong backbone is an organization that actually makes sure these conditions are met, that is, coordinating with all of the different members of the network, the community, et cetera. And that is the role that the Center for Cyber Safety and Education is playing in 50 by 50. Okay, so we're taking this approach, but we need need to start somewhere. We need to start with that creating that common agenda and shared measurement and mutually reinforcing activities. So what we needed to do was come up with a framework. And so we recognize that getting more women into cybersecurity and staying in a cyber career requires interventions across the entire career life cycle. That's from youth all the way up to senior professionals. And so while there are many ways to provide support, you saw all those organizations that are part of that are presenting partners, they're all doing a lot of great things. If we take a look at all of those interventions holistically, we realized we could come up with some buckets that identified broad types of actions. So that way, we put those two together to create what we call the Global Action Framework. And this provides a common language for talking about problems and solutions and comparing apples to apples. So I'm going to share with you the Global Action Framework. On this webinar, we don't have enough time to go into all the detail about it, but I just want to point out to you, so that top row, those are the 6 career stages. You can see we've got youth, post-secondary, career transitioners or career switchers, people who are in one career and want to get into cyber, then entry, mid, and senior level. Now, down the first column, you see those different action areas. There are 8 of them, and they start with career awareness and navigation, go down to mentoring and sponsorship, et cetera, et cetera. And really, each of these segments of this framework, there are different kinds of activities that partners and stakeholders, people who are interested in supporting this effort, things they can do. So we've developed the framework, but now we want to start to test it, have like a first proof of concept to see what we can do together with this collective impact effort. So that leads us to learning cycle number 1, which is why you're all here. So what is learning cycle number 1? So first of all, this is a time-bound collective learning experiment. We plan on doing more of these. This is just the first, this is the pilot. And the idea is that we pick one of those segments, going back to the global action framework. For each learning cycle, we will pick one of those segments to focus on. And so for this one, we are focusing on that first segment of youth and career awareness and navigation. So now we know that organizations that are working on these issues, nobody has all the resources they need. So we don't want to add extra burden. What we want people to do is run activities they were already planning to deliver, but just add a small shared set of data that everyone collects and then shares with us. And I'll tell you what we will do with that. But the core question for this learning cycle is what helps young people to know more about cybersecurity careers and see themselves in them. And you'll see this URL here too, by the way. That is where you can find online some more information about the learning cycle and also sign up. So one of the ways we got to this first learning cycle is a really excellent report that you may or may not be aware of. One of our presenting partners, Girls Who Code, published this at the end of last year. It's called Breaking Barriers, Girls and the Future of Cybersecurity. I really recommend you check it out. But one of the findings at the end of the report was that surface level cybersecurity awareness is not enough to sustain career interest. Girls need concrete understanding of what cybersecurity professionals actually do day to day, exposure to diverse career pathways and realistic job previews, et cetera, et cetera. So that identified, okay, what we need, but how we do that, that's what we're looking into. And that's what we're asking. We're casting a wide net, asking folks around the world who care about this. Let's see, what can you do? What approaches are you taking? And share with us, how that works out so we can then get those findings out to the greater community. Okay, so what do participants do? So first of all, wanted to say that you can participate as an organization. You can also participate as an individual as well. So again, you do the activity you're planning on, but ask the youth who are attending the activity. Maybe the activity is like a panel, a career panel, or it could be a job shadowing day. It could be any number of things. But whatever it is, we want you to ask 2 short poll questions before the activity and then after the activity. And those are, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you know about cybersecurity careers? Where 1 is nothing and 5 is a lot. And then also, on a scale of 1 to 5, could you see yourself in a cyber career? Where 1 is not at all and 5 is yes, absolutely. And so the way you can do this is you could do it through a Google form, you could do it through Mentimeter, you could do a paper, a paper poll that you hand out. The key is it's anonymous, and what we want are the aggregate responses. So what was the average response number for each of those questions? And we're going to be looking at too, was there a change between what the youth said at the beginning versus at the end? After the activity, did they see themselves more in a cyber career? That's what we're interested in. Now, I want to stress that what we're talking about here is not an evaluation. It is not a competition. We are not looking at, we don't want to say, oh, this organization is doing a really great job. This organization is not doing a great job. That is not what this is about at all. This is really about capturing what is actually working and also what's not working, too. And so then after the activity has taken place, you are going to submit a brief report. Now, we aim for this report to take you about 5 minutes just to submit. And I want to clarify too that if you are doing multiple activities in multiple locations with different groups, each separate activity should have its own report. Okay? So, what data is and is not collected? So the aggregate responses to those questions. And then we also want to know how many youth were in the activity, what their age ranges were, some basic activity details about format, length, delivery method. Those are all multiple choice, so you don't have to write anything. It's just picking out, what corresponds to what you did. We do have three open text questions at the end of the report, and those are, we want you to just say very briefly, what seemed to work, what didn't seem to work, and what would you do differently next time? We don't want you to collect any names, contact details, identifying your personal information, individual level responses. This all should be aggregated and anonymized. So what we're going to do then is once we get all those reports back, we are going to analyze the data and look for insights. Again, what does seem to be working, what doesn't seem to be working? Are there differences in different parts of the world? We don't know what we'll find, and we're really curious and excited to see what that will be. And we hope you will participate in this so we can learn. And then the idea is that these findings that we put in our learning cycle conclusion report, which we will first distribute to the participants, that will help inform future activities. Because again, we recognize nobody has all the resources they need, so you have to be strategic about what you have. So we want those resources to go farther, to be able to do more with the things that actually make a difference. So the learning cycle matters because it builds credible shared evidence across regions. It starts to strengthen this trust in collective learning, improves future activities, and this will also inform community funding priorities, global awareness campaigns, events, and public reporting. Okay, so here are some key dates. Registration goes through April 17th. So once you go onto the website and sign up, once you register, you will receive just some more information. You'll also receive the link to the actual reporting form. Then we ask you to conduct your activities no later than June 1st, and then by June 1st, submit your report. We will then take all that data, we'll be working on it, but no later than mid-July, we will send you that conclusion report. All right, so just, as we said, you can do anything you were already planning on doing. Lots of organizations, individuals have their own things they're already planning on. But if you need ideas, we have actually the Center for Cyber Safety and Education does have the cyber career pathways. It's a presentation on different cyber careers. This is part of our Safe and Secure Online program. If you're already a Safe and Secure Online volunteer, you can access that. If you're not, you can sign up to be a volunteer. This is great if any of you are representing ISC2 chapters. This is a great activity for ISC Together Month, which starts today. Today's the first day of April. So wanted to make you aware of that. And then one other thing too is that especially for folks in the United States, take your child or take a child to work day is Thursday, April 23rd. And so if you are a cybersecurity security professional and you're bringing your child or another child, to your workplace, that also counts. All you have to do is just ask those two questions at the start and the end of the day. But that totally is, can be used for the learning cycle. So wanted to throw that out there as an idea. Also, just wanted to let you know that we will be doing a second learning cycle in the second half of the year. We're going to be learning from this. Again, this is what we're doing right now is our pilot. And what we do in the second half of the year definitely will not be youth. It'll be another career stage. We are thinking it will be mid-career, but we will definitely confirm that as we get closer. But just as an FYI, especially if you're not able to participate in the first learning cycle, or if you are more engaged with those who are already in cyber careers, this is coming up. So you will find out more information later on this year. Okay, I've left, looks like 14 minutes for questions. So I welcome them right now. You can put them in the chat. Anything you want to know about, about the learning cycle, who's eligible, anything you want. So just feel free to put your questions in the chat. See, maybe while you're thinking about that, I will share one other thing just with some more. Oh, wait, I see a question. Okay. Regarding Bring Your Child to Work Day, can we register for this and have several of our staff do the questionnaire and report back the findings? Let me see what would I think you could do that. Because one thing is like each of the staff could register for that, but maybe if it's all basically if it's all the same activity, then one registration is fine. But if it's going to be different, um, and I see that's Jason, if you want to talk offline about that as well. Um, if it is, we're talking about one workplace and it's one sort of program that you have at your office. Um, I think that could be, you could report that out as one thing and just aggregate. Do make sure to do with the group, do the poll questions at the beginning and at the end. But feel free to follow up with any other, if we want to just clarify it before you do it. Not at all against having each. Okay. Okay. Wonderful. All right. Thank you for the question. And I'm going to share just another thing just to give you some more information here. Okay. This is just a little more about the report, what's going to be on that report. And, these are, let me see. Nope. Okay. Just the questions. These are multiple choice questions, so we don't have all the answers that are under them. But just so you understand what sorts of things we're asking, like the time of the activity, was it during school hours or out of school time, the length of activity, delivery method, in person, online, or hybrid, because absolutely it can be online as well. In that case, if you're doing Zoom or WebEx, you could do a poll to do the poll within the like the Zoom platform to get that quantitative data. Then there's content of activity, so what topics were covered in the activity, and then format, so how the activity was delivered. And then, again, we give several options, and then also space if nothing is represented there that corresponds with what you did, you can write it in. We're also interested in what the approximate age of the activity presenters or facilitators were relative to the activity beneficiaries. Does it make a difference if it's a peer who's sharing the information versus a near peer? So, in terms of youth, I would say a near peer is like a university student, for example, providing the activity. And then number of beneficiaries in attendance, age range of activities. And then once again, to clarify, we're talking youth is K to 12. That's, North America uses that. Other parts of the world talk about school age, for example. Yes. Okay. I see my experience for a few girls in XYZ careers days or programs that they're more STEM generalized. It might be that we could drive a focus group, but mostly these activities are general. That could be a little broad in terms of intent. What are your thoughts? Yeah, at this point, I would say, again, this is our pilot. If you think, if cyber is going to be covered at all, even if just in a small way, why not? We would love to get that, see what you find out. Um, you could also make sure you could note that as well in your report, just that this, was more general. Um, but I'd say, yeah, let's see it. Let's see what comes out. We're not going to know until we start seeing the data what, there may be trends. So I would say if you can do it, let's please join us. All right. And then here, the quantitative data piece that we talked about, and these qualitative insights. Again, briefly, what aspects of the activity appeared to be effective, what appeared to be ineffective or less effective, and what would you do differently in the future, in future iterations of the activity. All right. And let me see what else I can share here too. This is an FAQ. Um, and let me see if I can just bump up the example here. If you can see examples of what like the poll could look like. And you'll get this when you register this FAQ. There we go. So you can see this is in a Google form. Here's one in a Microsoft form. And I do want to note, in some cases, it may not be possible to do an electronic or paper form. In that case, we do have two other options. So one is to just ask those questions as a yes, no, or just ask participants to indicate yes by raising their hand. So, do you know about cybersecurity and could you see yourself in a cyber career? And it's not going to give us the same kind of data as the specific questions we have with the 1 to 5, but at least it's something. And then, if you conduct your activity, but for whatever reason you weren't able to ask the questions, please still submit data. The qualitative data still is important. And we want to see as well, like also what's most popular? What are we seeing? What kinds of activities are we seeing the most? Once again, we're going to be finding out this, time of activity, length, delivery method, content, format, and just knowing how many of these activities were, these different times, lengths, etc. That's all just good data to have. Okay, I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to just share my PowerPoint again and just give you some next steps. So immediate actions are, we hope you'll sign up for learning cycle number 1. Even well, we hope everyone, even if you can or if you can't sign up for learning cycle number 1, please help us spread the word to organizations and individuals who may be interested in this and taking part. Also sign up for the 50 by 50 mailing list at 50by50.org. You can reach out to become a partner. You can also donate 50 by 50. Then long term, mark your calendar for learning cycle number 2. We will have more information about that in the second half of the year. And we've got lots of other great things coming down the pike in terms of 50 by 50. So you can become an ambassador or ally. We're going to have various 50 by 50 events. But yeah, we would love to see you be involved as much as you can. And really, we are just getting started. We formally launched the initiative at the end of last year, and now we are really ramping up. So I will leave you here with that's my email address. If you want to reach out, you can also reach out on LinkedIn. 50by50.org has general information, but you can find information about the learning cycle at this URL. If you also go to iamcybersafe.org, you'll see a 50 by 50 drop down, and you can also find the learning cycle there. So that's it for today. Thank you so much. I will stop sharing my screen and just say thank you for all that you do. Thank you for caring. And will you send the slides out after? Yeah, I can do that. I can send the slides out. And yeah, we hope you'll join us and please stay in touch. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening. Thank you.